We've already seen a flurry of prospects come up, especially some of those non contending teams want to give rookies an extended look. But we also have to talk about the number 2 overall prospect in all of baseball, who finally is making his major league debut this season. If you haven't heard, Junior Caminero is finally getting the call. Now, he did see some action late last year with the Rays, but this season it's like we've just been playing the waiting game forever and ever. Now, part of that is due to the fact that he's been hurt, hit the IL a couple of separate times, some quad issues, and we thought this was just also a service time manipulation thing. So I'm honestly surprised that they brought him up already because I think he had another like 2 weeks to go, but whatever. He's up. You got to grab him. Yeah, no questions asked. This is the type of prospect that has already been stashed, maybe even all year long on some rosters. And so it might be hard to find him, but I understand that not every league uses NA spots. Not every league do you have deep enough benches where you can just afford to sit and wait on a guy who hasn't played yet. So if he's out there, you do want to go get him. Why? What's the appeal? Okay, well, he's number 2 prospect in baseball for a reason. He's got massive power. He's been compared to a right-handed version of Rafael Devers. Now, in last year's Cup of Coffee, he went 8 for 34 with 1 home run. Nothing that would wow you, but he did flash some signs there. He had an 11.5% barrel rate in that limited time, showing that power, and he hit one ball of 112 miles per hour. That's his max EV. Now, this is somebody who is just going to get better. Remember, only 21 years old. He was a shortstop. Moving over to third base is probably where he will stay in Tampa. And by stay, I mean he'll probably be there the rest of the season because we know Tampa already had their fire sale. There's no reason now not to just roll him out the rest of this year and see what they've got for the future. But in a pinch, he can also play shortstop if needed and maybe even second base. Pretty much the only thing you can't get from him is steals, not a speedster, but hey, massive power, definitely a very high hit tool. Tampa's not a great offense these days. We know this, but he will probably be put up right in the top of that order immediately. So that is a benefit. In his 2024 debut, he's hitting 5th and, of course, playing third base. Already has his base hit first of this year. It probably won't be too long before he gets up to like the number 2 spot in order and supplants a guy like Dylan Carlson. There are other prospects out there that could help, especially if you miss out on Caminero. How about another third baseman who is the son of a former should-be Hall of Famer? That's Billy Wagner, and his son Will Wagner just made his debut for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Wagner was actually drafted by the Astros, doing, Pop a favor there, but he was just traded to the Blue Jays this past trade deadline a couple of weeks ago. And it's interesting because he was part of a 3-man haul that the Blue Jays got, and he was almost an afterthought. They had a much higher end hitting prospect in Joey Loperfido, who's been playing every day. He was raking in the minors, and Jake Bloss, the pitcher. And Wagner was really just kind of a throw in for the most part. But Loperfido, since being there, has just not hit anything at all. He's been horrible for Toronto, honestly. Bloss still remains to be seen what he does. Wagner, okay, it's only one game, but he went 3 for 4, including a double to RBI. I mean, maybe he'll turn out to be the best of the bunch. All right, it's way too soon to say anything about that, but you should also know that an interesting side note here, one more piece of trivia, that you know that Will Wagner has already done something that has only been matched by 3 other players, one of whom was Danny Ainge. That's right, Danny Ainge, the NBA player, former Boston Celtic, great. He was actually also drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays and in his debut had a 3-hit game. Who would have known that? Now, despite not being a very high end prospect and not really being a good defender, well, Wagner's part of a very different looking Blue Jays team. He'll stick at third base if he hits, right? Plain and simple. He can also play second base. He could DH, doesn't matter. They're kind of having open tryouts here, Toronto. If you look at that lineup up and down, it's almost unrecognizable outside of Vlad Guerrero Jr. and George Springer. So maybe this is a flash in the pan, just a nice 1-game debut for Wagner, but it's worth keeping an eye on. You never know when a guy starts to produce at the major league level when he's given a shot. Which brings me to another third baseman, Andre Chaparro, who's now with the Nationals organization, isn't even ranked among their top prospects, and he hasn't been with the Nats very long. He was also part of a trade at the deadline for reliever Dylan Floro, came over from the Diamondbacks organization. Well, Shapar doesn't really seem to care what organization he plays for. All he's done this season at the AAA level for both farm systems is rake. Hit 328 with 23 home runs and 85 RBIs. And he also has a chance to stick pretty much every day the rest of the season. We know the Nats are not contenders, but they have kind of had a hole at third base all year long. Right now, they're playing Jose Tena, who they also just got in the trade deadline from the Guardians, and Trey Lipscomb, kind of promising rookie who you saw a lot early in the season. He was just optioned, so it doesn't look like he's one of their considerations right now. Let's see what he can do at the big league level, see if it translates. And this is more of a deep league, kind of a dynasty stash. But hey, when a guy's hitting, he's hitting and he's getting a chance. Obviously, this Nationals team is going young, the youth movement in full effect. And sometimes that can become infectious if these players really gel. All right, but getting to a pitcher, I think it's long overdue that we talk about another guy who's already making history. The first Zebby to be a major league ball player. Pretty sure that's right. I actually looked it up. Zebby Matthews is number 6 overall prospect for the Twins, is getting the call. He joins Festa, who's already been called up, and their rookie tandem now in the rotation. They need help because Joe Ryan looks like he might be out the rest of this year. Now, Zebby Matthews has been dominant in Double A this year across 55 innings pitched. He had an ERA under 2 and a whip under 1. Way under 1, in fact, 0.76. But there's a but here. When he got moved up to AAA, which, again, very brief appearance there, not too good. In fact, really not good. He gave up 12 earned runs in 19 innings at the AAA level. That's as many earned runs as he had given up across those 55 at Double A. And the problem all of a sudden was the home run ball. Didn't have any issues giving up long balls at Double A or lower, but all of a sudden got moved up a level and it was a big problem. But what has not been a problem is control. Still supremely low walk rates. This is a guy who will pound the strike zone for better or for worse. For the sake of transparency, I'll just tell you that Matthews is pitching right now, making his major league debut against the Royals as I speak. Well, so far, okay, 1 earned run in the first 3 innings, although that was a solo home run, so something to keep an eye on. But again, we're looking a little bit longer term here. He should be able to stick around if he's effective because the Twins just keep having gaps in that rotation. Another team that needs rotation help is the Boston Red Sox. You know that James Paxton is now out with a calf injury after they just gotten him. Garrett Whitlock has already been ruled out for the season. Lucas Giolito has missed the entire season. They just can't find that final piece to the puzzle there. Maybe they can find it in the minors with a former Yankees prospect, Richard Fitz. On the season, Fitz numbers aren't outstanding, nothing that you'd say would warrant an immediate call-up, but let's look at what has happened recently. Just since the second half began, in his last 3 starts, he's only allowed a total of 5 earned runs. But to me, just as notable is the fact that he's going a little bit deeper into games. In fact, he's pitched 17 innings over those last 3 starts, 6 innings each of his last 2 starts, and in those 6 innings, 7 strikeouts. Red Sox have a pretty good farm system, and Fitz still ranks as a top 10 prospect for them, one of their better pitchers, who now looks like maybe he is ready to help the club out. It's a team trying to make some sort of run, so keep Fitz on your radar. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention at least one A's prospect because we'll probably see several of them get a chance before this season is over. Let's look at Colby Thomas, outfielder for Oakland system. He's collected almost 400 at-bats split between AA and AAA levels somewhat evenly. And in those 400-something at-bats, 284 average, 24 home runs, 76 RBIs, and 14 stolen bases. And once he got moved up, he didn't take a step back. In fact, he's posting a 928 OPS at the AAA level. Now, we're all still waiting and hoping for Jacob Wilson to get back soon, which could happen before the end of August, set for rehab. But the A's do have other prospects, and I think a lot of them will get a chance because, why not at this point? Colby Thomas, not a household name unless you're really deep into prospects and know these systems in and out. And so nobody's really on him right now. Sometimes this is where the best value can be found, especially on these non-contending teams. Sure, football season's getting closer, but baseball rolls on. We're going to keep helping you throughout the end of the season for fantasy. Check out the latest video where I do keep bench cut and tell you what do you do with some of these struggling stars down the stretch.